Good morning, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today. The topic for today's webinar is the 10 best practices to reduce your AWS costs by 24%. My name is Kevin Bailey. I'm the Managing Director for the US East at To The New, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. I'd like to introduce our presenters today. Aman, who leads our cloud practice at To The New, and Neeraj, who is a solution architect for our cloud DevOps practice. Just a few logistics before we dive into this webinar. We'll have a question and answer period at the end of our session. Please ask your questions via the chat window. We'll be launching a few polls during this webinar. Please feel free to participate. We'll share the results at the end of this webinar. And our agenda will be as follows. I'll cover in a short overview of To The New as an organization and our capabilities as a cloud practice. I'll turn it over to Neeraj to discuss the best practice recommendations to optimize your AWS costs. Then Aman will discuss how to maintain a cost-efficient environment and provide further optimization within your AWS environment. And we'll end with a question and answer section. I'd like to introduce our first poll. Okay, thank you very much for that. So I'd like to take just a couple of minutes to give you some background on To The New. It'll help in setting the context for the rest of the webinar. Who are we at To The New? We're not a product company. We're not a staffing company. We're a digital technology services company. We help enterprises of all sizes in their digital transformation ventures, IT programs, and IT projects. We were founded 12 years ago by 4 very passionate founders. They're passionate about building a company that was focused on its customers and its employees. We're a global company with locations in India, the UK, and the USA. We have seen exponential growth, approximately 50% over the last few years. We now have a team of over 1,400 exceptional technologists on our bench. Our distinct advantages, in my estimation, at To The New is we have the agility of a startup. By that I mean we have the experience with many Silicon Valley startups. We have nimble and agile work processes. We have a product and engineering and innovation mindset. But we also have the maturity of a tech giant. And by that I mean we have excellent experience over the last 12 years with thousands of projects under our belt. We have seamless project management and delivery, and we have expertise in many digital transformation projects. We've also been recognized as one of the top IT firms to work for in all of India. Here are some capabilities and stats regarding our cloud and DevOps practice. We have over 10 years of experience in our cloud practice. We have over 250 cloud implementations under our belt. We have over 80 certified cloud architects. They're certified in AWS, Azure, and Google. We have over 300 AWS accredited engineers, and we have over 100 active satisfied customers. And we have well over 10,000 servers under our management at To The New. To The New is the premier consulting provider and partner of AWS. There are over 15,000 AWS partners in their environment, and we're in the top 1% of all AWS partners globally. Our certified expertise includes, but is not limited to, DevOps, migration, data analytics, and managed services. I equate this AWS seminar to a fitness analogy. I think we all want to get in better shape, lose some weight, and get our health in a better overall state. This webinar addresses your AWS health and gives you some tips and best practices to help you achieve your goal of a healthier environment. In turn, this will make you more efficient, effective, and assist you in cutting some costs in the long run. I'll now turn it over to Neeraj to address the topic of this webinar.
Thank you, Kevin, and good morning, good evening, everyone. So before starting with best practices, let's have a quick poll now. Thank you everyone for your active participation in the poll. So before going ahead and discussing the best practices, we would like to discuss common mistakes that people make in their AWS environment that can result in cost inefficiencies. All right. So what are the common mistakes and challenges that we see customer make? So at To The New, in last 2 months, we have done more than 40 cost audits, and based on that and our prior experiences, we have consolidated some common mistakes that we see people generally follow. So one of the things in AWS is it is quite complex as there are too many options to choose from. So in AWS, if I talk about EC2 instances, you can choose from more than 200 instance type. Similarly, if I talk about S3, you have more than 4 different storage classes for different use cases. So just in case you choose wrong service for your use case, you can end up paying more rather than saving. Apart from this, we also see people over provision workloads. It might be in the initial stages, it might be during the migration from on-premise to AWS, or it can be a number of reasons. But we have seen that customer over provision infrastructure initially and they forget to downgrade that. Apart from this, we have also seen in our past experiences that customers choose a common instance type for all kinds of workload. So when I say a common instance type, it can be a M5X large or M4X large in AWS. They choose it for all kinds of workloads. Whether the workload is memory intensive, compute intensive, they choose single instance type, and that again going forward results in underutilized or overutilized resource. Apart from this, from our understanding and based on our prior experiences, what we have seen is customers don't actively monitor their AWS spending. So it is more on a ad hoc basis, like in hard times, they work on their cost optimization part, but the rest of the time, it is never the focus. And in the past, we have also seen that out of 100 customers, 60 to 70% of customers don't have billing alert setup. So that what this makes out to be is like people don't keep aggressive track of their cost. So these are the few common mistakes that we have seen, and we will be going forward, we will be discussing the best practices to handle those. So I am moving to the first and the Yeah, so the best practices we are going to discuss, these are the quick wins for your business. So all these best practices, if followed and you don't have a very large environment, then you can get all this implemented within a week. So I will start first with the first recommendation, that is you should review all the resources in your AWS account, whether it is production environment, whether it is non-production environment. You should review all the resources and their utilization for last 1 month. And you can use your own monitoring system or you can use AWS CloudWatch. Those will help you in getting those insights, and categorize all the workloads into 3 categories. First category can be of the workloads, those are idle. Second category can be the workloads, those are underutilized. And the third category can be of the workloads that are performing well for you, or those whose utilization is like 50-60% in most of the cases. So what you need to do is you need to define right metrics to identify your idle workloads. So we commonly see that people use CPU utilization metrics, memory utilization metrics to identify idle workloads, but those don't help in most of the cases. Like for RDS, if you check your memory utilization on a idle machine, it won't help you because most of the memory is already occupied by the INO buffer. In that case, checking the number of connections database has in the last 1 week, 2 weeks, that might help you identifying whether the workload is idle or not. Similarly, you can identify right metrics for your different workloads. So in case of load balancer, it can be a request count. In case of EC2, it can be a network in, network out. In case of Elastic Cache, it can be a hit rate, miss rate. This is how you can define right metrics for all your resources and identify your idle resources. And based on your requirement, you can either stop them or you can terminate them. And this is a very quick actionable, and this can impact good savings. Moving on to the next bucket, that is underutilized instances. So if you see a common pattern, like both memory and CPU utilization are, so when we say underutilized and you are on AWS, we see people running workloads on 10 to 20% utilization. So in that case, you are wasting the flexibility of the cloud. We encourage you to increase the utilization footprint of all your resources to at least 40%, 50%. And if it goes above that, then you can start scaling. So in case you see both CPU and memory utilization low, then you can straightforward downgrade it to a lower configuration. And we don't recommend you downgrading by multiple folds. You should just do a one-step downgrade. Like if you're running an M5 XLR, you can downgrade to an M5 large. And in case you are seeing only specific CPU utilization or memory utilization is low on your machine, then you can try a different family as well, like moving from M5 XLRs to a R5 large or other family in AWS. And in case you are running seeing still you are unable to delete resources but still seeing idle resources, you can consolidate workloads in your non-production environments. You can either leverage containerization to run multiple resources on single box, or consolidated databases on a single RDS instance. Talking about the third bucket, the resources that are performing quite well for you, what you can do is you can check whether those are running on the latest generation of instance type or not. In case those are not running, then you can plan to move them to the latest generation. Here is a simple example showing comparison between M3, M4, M5, where M3 is the previous generation and M5 is the latest generation instance type. So if you move to newer generation, you get better performance similar to your i3, i5s, and you get a better pricing. That is, newer generation will always be cheaper. So in our audits, we have found customers running, good number of servers on the previous generation. So again, it is a quick win in case you have previous generation instances in your case. Once you are done with identifying resources, a major chunk of your resources, then we can look at your snapshot charges. First thing you should do is like you should check your snapshot charges and do a deep dive into it. We have seen with customers, snapshot charges can quickly pile up as most of the people use it for the backup and restore purposes. And with most of the customers that we have talked in past have their own homegrown solution or custom automation in place that takes care of creating backups, deleting those. And just in case your deletion or purging automation is not working, then you can pile up snapshot and that could result in good costing. Here is an example of a hypothetical customer who started taking snapshots in January, and at the month end, you can see he's spending more than $5,000 just on these snapshots. And for few customers, we have found that snapshot charges are more than the actual EC2 instances. So the key takeaway here would be, in case you want to offload operational burden from your custom scripts, you can move to AWS Lifecycle Manager for snapshots, or you can move to AWS Backup Manager for creating AMIs. And you should definitely review your snapshot charges once. Next is you should choose appropriate S3 storage class. So what we have seen in past is mostly customer use standard storage class for all their different use cases in related to data. So you should choose your appropriate storage class. Here is a example of if we store 50 terabyte of data in different S3 storage classes, what is the costing? So you can see that standard storage has the maximum cost, and whereas Glacier Deep Archival has the least cost. So depending, the S3 cost is calculated based on two factors. One is the storage cost, another is the data retrieval cost. Storage cost we have in the example section, and retrieval can depend upon the use case you have. So for example, if you have a use case of backing up data on S3, and you have you retrieve it once a month or twice a month, then you can consider moving that data to AWS S3 standard infrequent access storage. And in case you have temporary data for processing purposes, then you can use infrequent access. And in case you have use case to store data for long time, long retention, then you can use Glacier or Deep Archival. Again, let me remind you one thing. S3 with different storage classes, you get different SLAs and different durability. So before moving to any storage class, go through the documentation, do a good cost analysis. Next thing that we mainly focus on is AWS data transfer charges, and it is one of the most complex thing to understand because of the n number of components and number of things moving parts there. It can be a complex task to decode the data transfer charges. So first, you should understand your data transfer charges. Second, if you are running workloads in same availability zone and they are communicating over private IP addresses, then you don't incur any cost. But just in case you have workloads running in same AZ and are communicating on public or elastic IP, then you will be paying for those. So a key takeaway here would be you should go back and check your applications are communicating on a private IP address. Apart from this, you should also leverage compression at every layer possible, whether you are using CloudFront, you are using application web servers to serve your traffic, or you are uploading data in S3, leverage compression everywhere possible. This will help you reduce your data transfer charges significantly. In most of the customers we have dealt with in past, we have seen that cloud compression is by default not enabled on their CloudFront distributions. So do check your CloudFront other things for the compression part. And in case you have workloads that communicate to AWS S3 and DynamoDB, all this communication happens over internet. As AWS provide us HTTPS endpoint where we connect to these services and communicate with this, and all these communications happen over the NAT gateway by default. So just in case you have good number of transition happening between your workloads running in the private subnet and S3 or DynamoDB, you should evaluate the option of VPC gateway endpoints. Once you have VPC gateway endpoint, all the communication will start happening over the private network, and you will be able to significantly reduce your data transfer charges. And one more other best practice that I would like to discuss is leveraging the time-based scaling policies. So we don't see people using it very aggressively in their environments, but it is really helpful and very easy to implement. So here is again a hypothetical example of a customer who is running 6 C5 4x large instances for a month. So the cost for running them for a month is almost $3,000. Now consider a scenario like you can consider it as any example like e-commerce site which sees that traffic drops down after 12 a.m. and comes up in the morning 9 a.m. Consider that kind of example, and you can see we can reduce number of servers in the lean hours. We can reduce the number of servers from 6 to 2, and again bump up the number in the morning hours. So this way customer can save up to $500. So this is an example of a single instance type, and we have worked with customers who are running 100 200 servers in the different multiple auto scaling groups. So the cost savings that you can achieve with this simple trick is quite good. And in case you are as you must be running multiple environments on your AWS platform, we also recommend that you turn off your dev UAT pre-prod staging environments when they are not in use. Again, in the lean hours, or it can be weekends, or it can be on holidays, and you can turn them off and start them in the morning hours. That can again result in 20 to 25% of your savings. And this applies to EC2. You can stop EC2 instances, you can stop RDS instances as well, and now you can start, or pause or resume Redshift clusters as well. So we have seen in past, customers are now aggressively using Redshift for a number of use cases. Again, that can help you good number, saving good number. So these are the 6 best practices that we have discussed, and the majority of the savings can be achieved by the first 2: reviewing your existing resources, identifying, categorizing them, and then you can review your snapshot charges, your right storage option. You can evaluate based on the data set that you have. Then you can also look at the data transfer charges that you are paying, and based on the recommendations, you can review those. And again, last but not the least, you can use time-based scaling for automatically reducing the capacity based on the predefined schedule. So now I would like to ask Aman to share additional recommendations with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Neeraj. Hello, everyone. Hope you are keeping safe and healthy. I will again like to quickly start with a new pool. So please help us understand what is your current state, how much are you spending on AWS, so that we get a sense how much important the savings is for you. I'm going to wait for another 10 seconds and close the pool. Thank you. So Neeraj talked about some good recommendations that you can quickly start working on, and that those will have immediate cost savings that we can achieve. However, again, those are going to be short term, and again, for higher savings, we will have to invest more time, maybe do some kind of code changes, adopt new tools, change our deployment processes. I'm going to talk about some of those kind of long-term initiatives or recommendations that you should focus on. The first is, again, do not go for a standard region or a favorite instance type all the time. Most of us would know that like North Virginia is the cheapest region out there, not just in terms of the cost of the servers, but also the charges for data transfer, storage, CloudFront, and most of the services is cheaper. So every time, see whether you can host your workloads in North Virginia, or is there a reason, compliance requirement, or some other reason that you have to host it close to your end consumer. Still segregate the applications, at least the applications that are only consumed by your internal employees or the sales team or marketing teams. Those might be a good candidate to be hosted in North Virginia. Your non-production environment can be completely moved. Again, just to put things in perspective, we generally do a comparison between North Virginia and Mumbai. Mumbai is kind of 40% costlier than North Virginia as a region in most of the cases. And well, that is not always true. You might be aware that Amazon launched EMD-based processors some time ago. Those are again just a different processor, but have the same processing power compared to the Intel-based processors. So you will see there is a M5 instance family, and there is a M5A instance family. You will find same for the same size. You will find same number of CPU cores, as well as the RAM capacity. However, the only difference is the underlying processor. Is it Intel or AMD? AMD processors are 10% cheaper in North Virginia, and they are 35% cheaper in Mumbai. So if if your application does not have any specific needs to use an Intel-based processor, it is better that you move to AMD-based processors and probably host your non-production environments in Mumbai as a region. And again, I personally would not worry about latency issues. There are many companies out there who are serving customers at a global scale. I'm sure the latency issues can be addressed by using multiple caching mechanisms, integrating CDN like CloudFront, etc. You will be able to solve it once you reach there. Also, when you are integrating CloudFront, you would know that it has like hundreds of edge locations across the world, and the pricing varies depending upon the geography of the edge location it is using to serve the content. I will generally start with price class 100, which means only use edge locations in US and Europe. In this case, the pricing is much lower, but again works well in 90% of the cases. You would not need to move to a different edge location. Next recommendation would be to start using spot instances and move to containers. I can assure you this yields the maximum savings of all the recommendations that we are sharing here today. Quick poll before I talk about on this topic further. What is the percentage of spot instances that you use today? Wow. We're getting some interesting answers. I will share the results at the end of the webinar with all of you. All right, I'm waiting for another 10 seconds. Thank you. Yeah, so in spot instances, if you go with the AWS documentation, that sounds scary. It feels like the underlying host will change 10 times a day. It will just keep on spinning, turning off and spinning up more than it is going to serve the customers, right? I can tell you in all honesty, we've done that for so many customers. The interruptions are very less. It is like on an average, one interruption per host per month. Right. So assume it is going to give you very similar stability, just like on-demand or reserved instances. Do go for it. Try out any workloads that you are running under auto-scaling. Those will be a good candidate to start. Most likely, it will just be a configuration change for you to start using spot instances there. Of course, would recommend to start with non-production environments first, and once you have successfully done that, that is when you should start adopting spot instances for your production environment. Moving forward, serverless architectures are again another way of reducing your cost. If you're on a serverless architecture, if the applications are designed in the way, then you are ensuring that the billing that you get charged is not as per the capacity that you're provisioned, but you're actually paying for the end consumption done by the end consumer. So for example, if you are like rolling out a small microsite, you have a marketing campaign, you are not sure whether you are going to get 1,000 customers or 1,000,000 customers, and you plan to over-provision the capacity, spin up many servers. I would rather you see if it's a static website, if it is a simple form, I will use S3 and Lambda and host it there. It is going to be infinitely scalable. You will seamlessly handle all the traffic, and at the same time, you would not be paying for any unused capacity. So serverless architectures not just save the cost, they also take away all the complexity of administration, deployment, scalability, all those stuff. We anyways understand no servers are always better than maintaining secure servers, right? And most likely you're already using some of the serverless offerings that Amazon provides. Few quick examples will be simple email service, API gateway, Lambdas, DynamoDB, etc. Last recommendation, the 10th recommendation will be to target maximum coverage under reserved instances or savings plan that Amazon offers. Generally, this is a recommendation customers pick up to begin with. We have purposely kept it at the end, and we strongly recommend that you go through all the previous recommendations before you work on this. Of course, choose saving plans now. Reservations is obsolete in terms of savings. Savings plans offer the same level of discounts, but they come with less administrative overheads. Amazon RI utilization reports are misleading. The standard ones that you see in AWS Cost Explorer, I've never been able to make out any actionable information for myself. One, those are delayed. Those do not provide hourly level coverage. It's an average of the previous time period. At the same time, that utilization percentage is more based on the number of servers. Now think of it that you are running hundreds of small T2 micro or T2 nano instances, and you're running 50 C4X large, C5X large servers. Ideally, you would like to look at what percentage of your bill are you paying under the reserved capacity, and what the percentage is that you're paying under on-demand servers, right? So that is so you look at the utilization, also track the coverage. As and when you increase your workloads, you also want to increase your commitments to ensure maximum coverage. So start creating your custom reports for both of these. Just a quick summary of all 4 areas that I talked about. Choose the appropriate region and instance family. Containers and spot instances would offer maximum savings, and so would serverless architecture. Also target maximum coverage under the reservations and savings plan. Some lesser known facts. Many customers still do not know that EBS volumes can be resized without any downtime. So there is no reason to over provision. Similarly, RDS storage can be auto scaled. You can always configure a rule that as soon as it is above 85% of consumption, you add another 100 or 200 GB to the disk. So there is no reason to over provision. Again, I would personally avoid paying for any OS licensing fees wherever possible. So if you're running a .NET Core application, or if you want to just host a SQL enterprise database on a EC2 instance, you can always do that using a Linux environment rather than going for Windows. Similarly, most of the customers opt for Red Hat because they want some enterprise to provide support around new patches, releases over a period of time. I would trade it for Amazon Linux, which comes at a lower price, and Amazon will be able to offer similar support on that OS version, right? It might be interesting if you integrate CloudFront not just to like optimize the performance of the end user, but also save on the cost. If you would notice at a scale in most of the regions, CloudFront has a lower pricing compared to data transfer. Also, the private pricing for data transfer for CloudFront starts at 10 terabytes per month of commitment, while for data transfer it is 500 terabytes. So assuming if you are like at 20, 30 terabytes a month of consumption, including CloudFront and the general data transfer, you should be able to achieve anywhere between 20-30% of savings for sure, right? Also, think of some different ways how you can address the same use case, achieve the same performance with a different implementation. We just talked about that you should not over provision EBS volumes, but there are times when you need guaranteed provisioned IOPS, but the data size is low. We would recommend that you provision a high disk capacity, because Amazon guarantees 3 IOPS with every GB of the disk that you provision. So you can still achieve higher IOPS at a lower price. All right. Once we, all of you review your setup, go through all these recommendations, I'm hoping you will implement whatever inefficiencies that you find. You would be able to claim that now we have achieved the most cost-efficient setup in our environment, right? Once you've done that, the immediate logical question is, how do I maintain this environment? How do I ensure that we do not fall into the same unhealthy state again? Well, there are just two things that you need to take care of, tagging and reporting. Tagging is a very powerful tool. Amazon offers also provide an option for bulk tagging. If you're not already tagging, use that option to start tagging all your resources. When you use the tags, apply the tags like business unit, application, environment, owner, and anything else that is relevant for your organization. Use as many tags as possible, and then start using those tags to generate reports and allocate or charge back those that cost to different BUs or application owners, right? Do not lead anything as being charged back to central function units. There are customers who tell us that, hey, we have a common Jenkins or ELK stack or Nagios, which is used by all different application owners. If it is a centralized IT or DevOps team, that is where we would allocate that cost. If not, we will divide it proportionately across all different application owners. Same should be done for all the resources that you spin up for POCs, as well as for your untagged resources as well. There should be zero allocation to a central function unit, right? Once you are able to do that, you should also go ahead and publish real-time accessible reports for all the stakeholders. Any application owner should be able to go and see what was my cost yesterday and what is my cost today, where it has increased, what are the new resources that I have launched that has led to this cost change. Nothing like if you can push that information through emails or a Slack channel on a daily basis. Other than that, again, have some important, identify what are the important dashboards for you. One important dashboard that we see is just to go and see what are the top 10 resources where I'm incurring maximum cost. What are the top 10 S3 buckets? What are the top 10 CloudFront distributions? What are top 10 databases? What are top 10 EC2 instances? Do create dashboards so that you don't have to spend a lot of time finding this information. If that information is readily available, I can guarantee you people will be able to find spare time and act on those recommendations much quicker than they do today. As a quick summary, here are some takeaways that we talked about till now. Track the utilization for all your resources. Get rid of the idle resources, downsize. I'm sorry, just give me a second. Yeah. So ideally, you should get rid of all your idle resources, downsize underutilized resources. Always review whether you can move your workloads, host those in the lowest cost region wherever possible. Find the best fit instance type. Do not go with the favorite instance type strategy, right? Always consider using a serverless approach. Do invest time in understanding the AWS pricing. Just because of the indecisiveness or taking the incorrect decision, you might end up paying much higher cost to Amazon. Do publish real-time cost dashboards. Allocate all the cost to respective teams, including the shared resources and any untapped resources. Last but not the least, I would say we should start giving AWS cost or the effectiveness of AWS cost the required discipline that most of us don't do at the moment. In terms of hygiene, it is given that when we are deploying a new code on production, it will be tested thoroughly first on a dev environment, then UAT, then pre-production environment. If we talk about adopting Agile, we understand those practices will have a great outcome. We blindly trust those and follow those. You should define your own AWS spend management practices and diligently follow those. If it is still a penny project for you, you are like doing this cost optimization activity on periodic basis, once in a quarter or once in 6 months, I can assure you, you are leaving money on the table. The best state to be in would be the one when you don't have to do this as activity. It is ongoing discipline for everyone. That would be all that I had to share today. Over to you, Kevin. Thank you.
Thanks, Aman. Thanks for sharing the detailed account of different ways to further optimize your AWS environment. Now, we completely understand that you have a great internal team that works with your AWS environment, and I'm sure they do a superb job. But even a world-class athlete utilizes a coach sometimes just to tweak their workouts, focus their discipline, and kind of help them maximize their results. At To The New, we help our customers by acting as that particular coach. So let's go to our question and answer section. So our first question, what is the difference between RIs and savings plans?
Well, RIs, as I said, those are obsolete saving plans. So you would notice that there are two RIs, standard and convertible RIs. There are two saving plan, EC2 and compute saving plan. In terms of discounting, EC2 saving plan is exactly same as standard RIs. Compute saving plan is exactly same as convertible RIs. However, in convertible RIs, you have to manually modify the reservations as and when you change it. While in saving plan, it will automatically apply those savings to the best fit instance types. Also, in saving plan, Fargate and Lambda consumption is covered under the same commitment that you do, right? So always go for saving plan.
Got it. Next question is, are there 3-year RIs recommended?
Not really. 3 years is a long period, more like a decade in our industry. So don't go for 3-year RIs. I will take a pause here. There was one last poll that I had to shoot. I missed that earlier. I think this question calls for that question. What is your RI commitment today? See, ideally, 3 years, as I said, is a long period. There could be a lot of change in technology. We would anyway recommend you to move away from provision capacity, start using spot serverless architectures, start using spot instances. And a situation like this current COVID situation is a classic example that you should also have the opportunity to turn off everything and just save on the cost when the business is not up, when you do not need those servers to be up and running. You don't want to be paying for any unused capacity at times like these, right? Having all this said, we definitely do 3-year reservations a lot. We do that because we manage the billing for 100+ customers. So our risks are hedged across all those businesses. By achieving this, we are also able to offer guaranteed 100% coverage on all the instances that you're running under reserve pricing for 1 year. And that too without you doing any kind of commitment to us. We'll be happy to talk to us, and we can share more details around it.
Great. The next question is, why did you mention 24% in the webinar title?
Thanks a lot, Kevin. I was hoping that would be the first question that many of the attendees would ask. So 24% again is basically the number. As Kevin and Neeraj mentioned, we work with hundreds of customers. We continuously help them optimize their cost. We are one of the rare AWS partners where cloud spend management is a separate offering, and that is where we do not charge our customers. We make our savings like profits by from the savings we are able to achieve for the customers. 24% is the number, is the average saving that we have been able to achieve for all our customers in last 1 quarter.
Okay, great. Next question. What is the common spend split between production and non-production?
So common split would be, again, it could vary a lot depending upon your use case, your workload, but in 90% of the cases, it should be 20-80 or 25-75% split. If you're spending more than that on your non-production environment, I would suggest having somebody else do a quick audit or review for the complete environment.
Okay. Next question. There's always an ambiguity in considering the RIs. Is there any solution?
Sorry, Kevin, could you please repeat the question?
Sure. There's always an ambiguity in considering the RIs. Is there any solution?
I already answered that. That is true. So again, so at one side we are saying that you should increase the commitment, have maximum coverage. At the same time, we are saying that it is not recommended to commit for a 3-year tenure. One way to, I understand, and ambiguity is because businesses might not be ready to make a commitment, and there are too many stakeholders involved. We definitely solve that problem. As I mentioned earlier, we can solve that problem for you. We can provide you a guaranteed 100% RI coverage with 1-year reserve like pricing without any commitment. You continue to run everything on demand and still get charged at the reserve pricing. We have a solution. Do talk to us.
Great. And the last question that I see at this time is, how much time does it take to implement these recommendations?
So most of the recommendations that Neeraj talked about should not take more than 1 to 2 weeks for an environment with 100-150 servers. The rest of the recommendations would also depend upon the agility, flexibility to adopt changes, as well as the skills of your current team. Assuming you don't have to worry there, it should take anywhere between 4 weeks to 12 weeks to implement most of those changes. If you also need to upskill your team, that might need a lot of additional effort.
Great. And I see one more question just came in. What should be the max bid for spot instance request?
Again, the bidding for instances the bidding was taken away by Amazon long ago. You need not bid anymore. Also, I also see another different question. Somebody has asked if there are any tips to reduce serverless cost. So again, kind of depends. If you're using services like simple email service or SMS service, there is private pricing that Amazon offers, but that's at a humongous scale. If you are there, you might talk to your AWS account manager to see if a private pricing is something that they can offer. For service like Lambda, you can leverage this plan to achieve a reduced pricing. I see somebody asked for sharing the deck. We'll definitely do that after the webinar. I also see somebody requested which region is better to run non-production workloads between Mumbai and North Virginia. Personally, I don't see any reason not to use North Virginia. That is what at least we have been doing for many customers. Do give it a try.
Okay, great. I think that ends our question and answer section. So I'd like to thank everyone today for attending our webinar. We'd be very happy to have a conversation with anyone who has a question or might want to dive a little bit deeper into this topic. We'd like to thanks again, and please stay safe and healthy during these trying times.
Thank you, everyone.